Welcome one, welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how great trail hunters are with Toyotas, then this is the podcast for you. That's right, ladies and germs. My name is Tyler, and joining me on episode 300 and something is Mr. Jimmy Jet.
47.
Jimmy, welcome. What are we on?
347. On
episode 347. Welcome back to the podcast once again, sir.
Thank you. Happy to be here. How are you doing?
I'm feeling a lot better than I did the past 2 days.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I got the vid finally.
Yay. Congratulations. You win.
Yay. I finally won something. I don't feel left out from everybody now.
Yeah, we'll talk about that here in a little bit.
Yep.
But we have a fun discussion today of Tyler going to SEMA and everything that happened over the last few days while he was at SEMA. And but we do have a little bit of housekeeping to get to before we hear about his what sounds like could be a fantastic trip.
Yeah, hopefully.
Do we have we have a giveaway this month? The giveaway is the 3-drawer toolkit from WINCH.
That is correct. Yep. WINCH has a lot of those sitting around apparently. They have did a big sale on them to help clear them out kind of thing. And so you should be able to pick them up for like anywhere between 30 and 50% off, depending on where you go and who you know. So the main kind of thing that we've been looking at has been Amazon, because they're normally listed like $550, $560 on Amazon, something like that. And they're down at like $280 right now.
Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy.
It's a steal, and hopefully, and one lucky winner will get one from us for free.
Yes, sir.
But if you can't wait, you should definitely go check out a local Home Depot, because they probably have them for cheaper.
Yeah, they might. Yeah, they're doing a lot of work lately with Home Depot and Amazon. So check out those two as kind of one of the main ones. I know that Fastenal can also, if you have a Fastenal near you, you might be able to go into a Fastenal and get a pretty good price on them, as well as Napa Auto Parts.
Yeah.
They also carry a bunch of gear wrench stuff. So
yeah, I've never seen those drawers at a Napa, but I would assume that Napa should be able to order them for you.
I would exactly. I would assume the same thing. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, check out a store near you to see if you guys can get one of those. They're a really cool kit. We've said it before. I think it's a fantastic kit for like taking out on a trail with you. It has all your bare necessities in a kind of nice travel kit. Or if you can't work on your vehicles right next to your toolboxes, it's kind of nice to have that to be able to take out into your driveway or into your backyard, side concrete pad, whatever you got at your house that you work on your vehicles at.
Yeah.
It works out really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. We also drew some winners for the giveaway that we had going on over in October with Morflate for the extreme tire repair kits.
Yeah, we had 2 of them to give away. Yep. Those come with the Ultimate Tire Repair Kit, which is your tire plug kit that's on steroids from what a lot of the other tire plug kits you see out on the market. We have the Colby Valves 2-pack and a 4x4 sidewall repair kit from Glue Tread.
Yeah.
Is what's all included in that.
Cool. And then the lucky winners were, there's a drum roll on here. Oh, you have it, don't you?
Do we have a drum roll? I have the media. Oh, we do.
Nick DeLuca.
Oh, there we go. Hey.
And give me another one, because we have 2 winners.
All right. The second winner is
Riley Mayo.
Hey!
Yay! Congratulations, you guys. We'll get in contact with you, get your make sure we have the proper mailing for it, and we will send those out, or at least Morflate will, because I don't have them.
Yep.
They will mail those out to you. Are you allowed to mail things again?
I can officially start shipping things again. Yeah, we have a workaround working right now. I still haven't sorted out the original issue that
Wow.
started this whole fiasco.
Got it. So congratulations to you guys. We'll get those out shortly.
Can I just say, I think it's kind of interesting and a little karma-esque for us to end Glue Tread Month with Nick winning some Glue Treads.
Why do you say that? Because he was on the trip with us?
Yes, because he was on the trip with us, and he got quoted in the video as, I'm not going to lie, I thought that this was not going to work or anything, and I'm a big believer now.
Yeah. I remember that. I also remember him saying that he got one for Christmas the year before because they saw it and thought it would be interesting. So he had one, and then he said he was going to go out and get another one. Or no, he got one in his gift box, and he just won one for the giveaway right now.
Yep. Well, he's got 3 vehicles now for everything. He's got the Tacoma, the Gladiator, and then a Land Cruiser, which never leaves a parking lot anyway.
Right. So he could throw one in each rig. He's set.
There you go. Oh, man. So congratulations, guys. Thanks, everybody, for supporting the podcast and getting into the giveaways. That's one of the ways to support the podcast here is we get some pretty cool products donated from different companies, and we get to give it back to you guys in support for the podcast there on the giveaway tier located over at irate 4x4.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah, if you guys want to get in for giveaway tiers in the future, want to support the podcast in any way, you can head over to irate4x4.com, scroll down the page a little bit to the Snail Trail 4x4 forum. And then once that comes up, all your payment options will be on the right-hand side. If you're looking at that page from a computer web browser, if you're looking at it from a mobile device, they'll be right down at the bottom of the page, all those different options there. That's also where we post the tokens.
Yeah.
We've had a few tokens posted recently, and one of them got found already.
Yeah, one of them was found within a week. That's pretty crazy. Need to talk to that guy. Have him hide him better.
Yeah, we'll need to talk to him. I'm not even sure if the guy that found the token, if he was really even looking for the token in the first place.
No, I think it just sort of stood out at him. Like it doesn't look right. And so he found it. But the guy that found it, supposedly he's not I don't know if he listens to the podcast, but he's not a member of the Snail Squad. Did not know that there was GPS locations in regards to the token, just because on the token it says, if you find this, contact Snail Trail 4x4 on Instagram. And he sent us a message on Facebook saying, I found this. It was a little confusing. Exactly. So we'll shoot him out a sticker, and if he wants to join to find other coordinates to go out and find other tokens, he's more than welcome. Yep. Well, let's see. We also we needed to do reviews, FNGs, birthdays. But I'm sure Tyler has a long story ahead of him for his SEMA trip, so we're going to postpone that till next Thursday. Mm-hmm. But I do want to say that we do have an FNG. I did want to call one out.
Oh, okay.
It's Mr. Kevin Poole.
Oh, is Debbie not around anymore?
Debbie left us. Debbie moved on, and I'm not entirely sure what the story is, but I'm guessing that Kevin started his own account after we made too much fun of him.
Proud of you, Kevin.
Yeah, he did message me, and he's like, okay, I'm changing accounts, and I'm going to change my name to my name. Can I still keep my status from long ago? And I was like, yeah, man, we'll hook you birthday. Up.
Yeah. Keep Debbie Poole's birthday on there.
Yeah.
Name it as Kevin's.
That's what we could do that. That's what we'll do.
Yeah, I guess we can do that.
Mr. Debbie Kevin Poole.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard, Mr. Debbie Kevin Poole.
Even though you changed your name, we're still making fun of you.
Oh, man. Anyways, that's good. That's good stuff. Cool. Yeah, we'll do birthdays and FNGs next week. But we did want to get the would that be October winners?
October gifts, yeah.
Yep. The October giveaway winners out. So we did that for you guys. And the rest of the show is pretty much going to be a recap of SEMA and kind of how SEMA was through Tyler's eyes and through some of the other stuff that I got to go play around in Vegas with.
Excellent. I'm excited to hear some stories and learn more about the TrailHunter.
Yeah, that one's an interesting one. We'll cover that coming up here. Okay.
Good. Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. So without further ado, everybody go ahead and grab your favorite drinks. We'll be right on back. We're going to take a break on this Thursday because my voice is not happy talking a lot. There you go. Right on cue.
Perfect time for a cough.
Right. So we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to get some cough drops and some meds, and then we'll be right on back with stories from Vegas. How's that? Ready?
Ready.
All right. And your mark. Get set. Go. That wasn't what I was thinking it was. Oh, welcome back, ladies and germs. We are. Why are you laughing?
Because you said germs.
What
you should have said viruses.
I know, right? Ladies and viruses. No, yeah, I sound a little bit more like Barry Manilow. You should have heard me this morning. It was fantastic. But
I believe it.
Yeah, I went to Vegas. I went to SEMA. Kind of a sort of a semi-last minute decision. Came back with COVID, which was I was kind of expecting that. I kind of started making jokes about it while I was there with the secretary. I was getting notices on my phone saying, hey, would you like to be notified about being near other people that have come in contact, contact tracing? And I was like, no, I already know I'm going to be around a shit ton of people that have been in contact with COVID. I know my risk is going to be very high of contracting it from this trip, but I'd rather not have to worry about it while I'm here. So I clicked no, and ended up getting it. So
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I finally got it. This whole time, I haven't had it yet until just now. So
yeah, that's quite impressive. I mean, I was 4 months or so ago that I got it. So, and that was my first time, and I don't know, it kicked my butt for a few days, and then I slowly came out of it. But I did have a scratchy throat and a cough and congestion for a solid week or so afterwards.
Yeah. But yeah, we went down to Las Vegas for the SEMA show, which was very interesting. It was my first time in Vegas ever, let alone going to SEMA.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
How about the secretary? Has she been to Vegas?
She has been to Vegas a couple of times. So her dad was, in the broadcasters, I don't know, something for CBS, and every 2 years, something like that, they did a big trip where they take all the CBS important people to Vegas. And so she got to go on those trips a couple times.
Okay.
So she's been there. She kind of got to be my tour guide since, you weren't there. None of the other podcasting guys were there that I knew of. So it seemed like this year was a little sparse on the podcasts out of Vegas.
Trail chasers were there, weren't they?
I never saw them, and I haven't seen a whole lot of content come out from them, but I haven't been looking for it either. So
true. You should have been running around at SEMA going, where are the trail chasers at? Where are the trail chasers? I've been trying to find them all week long.
Oh my God, I didn't even think of doing that. That would have been fantastic.
Yeah, that sure would have. All right, so first time in Vegas, and you landed super early in the morning. I know that you had like a 5 a.m. flight there. So
yeah,
it's fun to fly in at night, and see all the lights and everything. So
yeah, well, I mean, we still arrived. It wasn't daylight yet, really, when we got there.
True.
We flew out. I think our flight left at 5:30, and we got into Vegas at like 6:30, 6:40, before 7 a.m. There was definitely lights out, but it was kind of dawn time-ish. So It wasn't daylight yet, but it wasn't completely dark. Our goal was to go for Thursday and Friday to be out at SEMA, and then Saturday we were going to stay for some sightseeing around Vegas. And then our flight was going to leave kind of in the afternoon, evening time on Saturday. So we would have all day Thursday, all day Friday, and then at least half of the day, if not more, Saturday to kind of hang out and see some stuff. So yeah, Thursday was a just kind of check-in day, right? So I was able to get a media pass through the podcast, which was really cool. And but I've never been there before. I don't know the lay of the land. I don't know how anything is set up and structured. I don't know how to get around everywhere in Vegas. And the secretary still had to work Thursday and Friday.
Oh.
So we found a spot for her to just kind of hole up for the day and work and do meetings and whatnot on Thursday. And then after we found her a good spot, I left to go find the SEMA show in the convention center.
So where did you guys stay?
We stayed at the Link Hotel, the Link Experience, the Link, I forget what it's exactly. It's the Link there right next to Harrah's.
Okay. So is it all like Legend of Zelda status?
I wish that would have been much more better than what we had. Apparently they were doing a bunch of construction on our hotel casino down in the lobby. Like they're completely redoing all the lobby floors right now. Wow. In that hotel casino. And so we didn't know about it. And so when we got there on Thursday morning, they had a ton of construction going on. People were chiseling up tiles. There was dust everywhere. And we're like, and this is where we're staying? We hadn't prepared for this. By the time Friday and Saturday came around, they had everything cleaned up where it was just kind of bare concrete. And some of the tile floors have been put in, but they kind of stopped all the construction for the weekend while the weekend crowds came in.
Makes sense. Got it.
Yeah,
so the secretary didn't want to stay in the room to do her so-called work.
Well, we couldn't. Check-in wasn't until 4 p.m.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So you went and found a coffee shop or something?
Yep, we found there's a Starbucks right there between the Link and Harrah's. There's a little alleyway, walkway right there. She parked up at the Starbucks and worked on stuff for most of the day, at least until about 1 or 2 p.m.-ish. And then we checked our bags with the hotel so that they would hold on to them. And then I went off to find SEMA, and she hung out at Starbucks to do work and take some meetings.
Nice. And so you jumped in a cab or Uber or Lyft or whatever and said, take me to the conference center?
Not exactly.
Okay. Did you walk the strip?
I had been told, yeah, that was my goal, was originally to walk the strip. And then I realized that the convention center is not near the strip.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, that's not going to work. But I saw a shit ton of people walking in one direction wearing SEMA Apex credentials tags.
Okay.
And I was like, well, if all these people are going the same direction, they've been here since Monday or Tuesday, most likely. And all of them, like all the ones I saw had vendor written on them.
Oh,
and so
okay.
I was like, they must know where they're going. So I just kind of like followed the crowd where they were walking to. Ended up walking from the Link through Harrah's, through the Venetian, down to the bottom floor of the Venetian to find out that the Venetian is where the Apex show was being held.
Oh. Whoops.
And I was like, oh, okay. So how do I get from here over to the convention center for the SEMA show then? And somebody told me where to find they had a shuttle going between the two shows. And they also have shuttles going from all the major hotels to the SEMA show as well that I found out later about. So that day, Thursday, I took a shuttle from the Apex show in the bottom of the Venetian over to the convention center and got dropped off on the north side of the convention center at the Central Hall, the north side of the Central Hall. It's the north side of the North Hall. I forget, right around that area. Got out there and was like, all right, cool. I'm here. Where the hell do I go now?
Yeah. It's a bit overwhelming. The whole show is massive. It's all the halls of the conference center plus outside areas. And I mean, it's a breathtakingly overwhelming when you get there for the first time.
It totally was. And it was, I don't know, I wasn't necessarily overwhelmed with what was going on. I was just overwhelmed with what I didn't know was where everything was. What was the lay of the land, right?
Sure.
I played a lot of video games growing up, and there's a lot of like RPG role-playing games or real-time strategy games where you're as you're walking around a map and discovering a map, it's like it's called the fog of war in RTS games. And so I felt like as I walked around, I started discovering more of the map, almost like an RPG or RTS game as I was there at the convention center. But that was interesting. One thing that was really nice was as I was heading from the Apex show to the shuttle at the Venetian, I happened to pass a room that said Apex Media.
Okay.
And so I walked in that room and I was like, hey, I understand this is the Apex Media Room. Is there any chance I can get my SEMA credentials here as well? They're like, yeah, no problem. We can do that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I ended up giving them my paperwork. They pulled up my file, printed out my media pass for me so that so essentially I had that when I got to the convention center already. I didn't have to go from where I got dropped off on almost the most northern end of the compound of the convention center, and then have to go find the media room, which is almost at the very south end of the convention center.
Yeah.
To get the media credentials.
Yeah, it would have been good to go to the media center at SEMA because they probably would have given you a map if you didn't get one already. They would have given you a little bit more layout of the land and telling you where things were. But I mean, you would have had to walk almost all of it to get there or figure out where it is. And you would have figured a lot of that out by that walk.
Yes, I would. That definitely would have helped. So my world right now, since I had got my credentials before, was just kind of focused around the North Hall, which really wasn't anything that I was interested in. So I was like, okay, what are the boundaries to the North Hall? Where does the North Hall end and the next hall start? Because I ended up getting myself over into the Central Hall without even noticing that I was in the Central Hall. I walked in and I started noticing that all the doors were labeled with C and then a number. And I was like, then I asked one of the information booths there. I will give it the credit to SEMA. They had a lot of information booths set up everywhere. And those people were very knowledgeable. Anytime I had a question, they were really good about answering and giving me a good heads up about whatever it was. So I ended up in the Central Hall, which I was like, okay, well, what's in the Central Hall do I need to look at? And I realized that SEMA Launchpad was located in the Central Hall, which is one of the areas that Glue Tread was going to be at.
Correct, yeah.
And so I was like, I definitely need to go say hi to Glue Tread. I had my list of people that I needed to go by and say hi to, and I had a couple of meetings scheduled for Moreflates, a couple of retailers I was meeting. I went into the Central Hall, found the Launchpad, and found Glue Tread booth, and got to meet a bunch of the Glue Tread people, which was really cool. When I walked up, they were playing Simon's video
I saw
of
that.
our Rubicon trip. And so they happened to be talking to somebody while the video was playing, and we were just stabbing the tires.
Okay, yeah.
Up at the Rubicon, up at the spillway, the Rubicon Trail sign. And I kind of walked up and I was like, man, I don't know what kind of video you guys are watching, but don't listen to that guy on the video. And they kind of like stopped for a second because I didn't introduce myself or anything.
Sure.
Andy wasn't there. He was over at their other booth. Almost immediately, Amy looked up and she kind of cocked her head sideways and got a really confused look. And then she just goes, oh my God, you're Tyler.
Nice. Yeah.
And so it was fun to meet them and say hi to everybody at Glue Tread. Hung out there for a little bit and then went around to see what else I can find that I might be interested in. That was really the only thing in the Central Hall that I was really found interesting, but we'll come back because I went back to the Central Hall late on Friday.
For another reason?
For another reason, yeah.
Got it.
So Thursday, after that, I was like, okay, I need to go check out the off-road. Most of the stuff I need to do is in the off-road area, the overland area, which is off in the West Hall. So I was like, how do I get to the West Hall? And the Glue Tread people, Amy, she was like, oh, here's how you do it. It's kind of a maze. I was like, that's kind of the theme I'm getting about Las Vegas, is that everything is designed like a maze, so you don't know how to get out of anywhere you are.
They want to keep you inside.
Exactly. I ended up finding my way through the sky bridges, or at least they were telling me how to get through the sky bridges to get over to the West Hall. In order to get to the sky bridge, I had to go right through the Toyota booth.
Bummer.
I know. It was I was like, oh man, I got to go walk through and check out these dumb concept vehicles, and I'm really glad I did.
Okay. So did you see the TrailHunter?
I did indeed. Yeah, and I got to take a very close look at it, and it's definitely a concept vehicle. So the TrailHunter is not necessarily a vehicle itself. What they're trying to do, I got to talk with a marketing lady and an engineering guy.
Oh, cool.
And a lot of their answers were, legal will not let us answer that. And I was like, okay, I get it. NDAs. Yeah. No, so the TrailHunter, their take on the TrailHunter as a concept is by adding the TrailHunter, and they're not sure that that's the name they're going to keep, but they're talking about having that as another trim model that you can purchase from the factory on their more adventure style vehicles, like the 4Runners, like the Tacomas, like the Tundras, like the Sequoias. And the whole idea behind it is that it's an overland trim model.
Got it. Okay.
So you get a lot of the overland accessories, such as exterior lighting, such as winches, roof racks, other things that, a typical overlander would buy and put on their vehicle first as one of their first mods.
Right. So not so much suspension or skid plates or rock sliders?
I mean, they have the same suspension, skid plates, and rock sliders as pretty much like the TRD Pros will have.
Okay.
They're talking about the TrailHunter as a concept, quote. I'm using quotation marks right now, and people listening can't hear it. It's more of like a trim model that they're talking about adding on top of like the TRD Pro.
Yeah. I don't know if I would say on top of as much parallel.
Right. They said supposedly their goal is to provide everything you get in a TRD Pro capability wise, but also a bunch of overlanding accessories from the factory.
Okay,
that's kind of cool. I was like, I think that's really neat that you guys are kind of heading in that direction, because obviously the Tacoma is a huge win in the overlanding off-road space, outdoor vehicular recreation space. It's definitely, and I had a long talk with them about, you guys really fell behind for a while, quite a while, on off-road technology and everything that comes with off-road vehicles. I asked them if they had any thoughts or talks about putting a locker into the front differential of any of the cars, and to which their reply was legal would not let them answer that. Yeah, they're definitely starting to focus a lot more on the adventure lifestyle for those top four vehicles, the Tundra, Tacoma, 4Runner, and Sequoia.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I told them that I was with the podcast and we'd love to find somebody to interview. And so I got some contact numbers, and we'll see if we can get somebody on from Toyota to talk a little bit more about kind of the future vision that Toyota is coming up with and trying to implement here in the States with their adventure vehicles.
That's awesome. That's great news. I've reached out to the Toyota podcast, but I've only had crickets come back. So it's good to get some actual names and contact information so we can try to work better or more closely with Toyota. That's good job, Tyler. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I thought you would enjoy that one. I was really surprised. There was a lot of people on social media kind of taking pictures of and highlighting a lot of the vehicles in the Toyota booth, except I don't think I ever saw one picture on social media of the vehicle that I liked the most.
Oh,
in the Toyota booth.
What was that?
The bright orange Sequoia.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen anything on it.
Exactly. It was really, I got to take an in-depth look of the Sequoia. I got to check out the suspension of the Sequoia, all the interior comforts, some of the rad designs they've done on the interiors of them. It's a pretty freaking cool vehicle. It's on the same platform as the Tundra, right? It's on the same chassis and
Correct.
everything as the
Yeah.
Tundra. So it's going to come with the option of that twin turbo, 3.5 liter twin turbo hybrid engine, which produces 490 horsepower and like 580 foot-pounds of torque. It's something stupid. The model I was looking at, that bright orange one, if anybody was out at SEMA knows which one I'm talking about, it had a rear e-locker.
Oh.
In the Sequoia as well.
That's nice.
Yeah. And so it had some really cool stuff going on with the suspension, some really cool stuff going on with the drivetrain. What I thought was really interesting about it was that it's a 3-row seating in the Sequoia, and the middle row is captain seats.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's a bench, captain bench?
Nope. So 2 captain seats in the front, 2 captain seats in the middle, and then a bench in the rear.
That's pretty nice. Kind of minivan-esque.
It kind of was a little bit minivan-esque, but the big thing that I really liked was that the seats were super easy to detach and remove from the vehicle if you wanted to remove the 2 in the middle or the rear, the third bench in the rear. And there was a lot of other really interesting things going on that made creature comforts very nice in the Sequoia, such as built-in window shades.
Like pull-down window shades or up?
They pull up, yeah, from the door.
That's crazy. Okay.
Right. So there was a lot of interesting little things going on with the Sequoia. And I was like, this vehicle is totally being overlooked right now. Like everybody was taking pictures of the XO Overland and highlighting X Overland's Tundra and Sequoia and 4Runner builds. And I was like, I like this stock Sequoia over here. Like this is pretty freaking capable. And since it's on the Tundra chassis, we can probably fit 37s on it without too many problems.
That'd be nice. Did you try to convince the Toyota employees to let Snail Trail 4x4 have a Sequoia so that we can do a bit bright orange build?
I definitely mentioned something along those lines, and I may or may not have mentioned that I was pissed off about my Ford Bronco order, and if there was any way that they could promise me a Sequoia, I would totally ditch the Ford Bronco and go with the Sequoia. And they just kind of laughed and was like, haha, yeah, our legal team won't let us discuss that.
Neither will the secretary, probably.
No, exactly. They had another really neat build there in the Toyota booth. It was a 6x6.
A 6x6 what?
It looked like a 55 almost.
Oh, so a Land Cruiser.
Yes, it was a Land Cruiser converted to a 6x6. And it was really neat the way it was set up because it was all on portals as well.
Ooh.
With an FJ80 front axle.
Nice. I didn't know you could do that.
I didn't either. And apparently somebody has figured out how to do this. And so I took a couple of pictures and I was like, let's see, how do we convert a mini truck knuckle into running a portal on the outside of it?
Heck yeah. You figure out how to do that. We've got making gold. That's what we call it.
Exactly, right? So that was a lot of fun. I ended up actually crawling.
Sorry to stop you, but because you're going to take a ton of stress off of the third member. If you
100%,
do the gear reduction, some of the gear reduction out at the knuckle, then stress is off of that third member and you can run an 8-inch and you don't really have to worry about it with big ass tires. So, all right, we need to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Hustle nuts, get on it.
Yeah, the other thing that I found out shortly before SEMA, and I kept trying to find a way to get answers about this, and I couldn't find anybody because they were not out there, is 74 Weld, who does the portals on a lot of the Ultra 4 cars. They just released their JK and JL portals.
Oh.
And they're just now getting ready to release portals for 99 to 04 unit bearings, the Ford Super Duty unit bearings, and 05 to 10 Super Duty unit bearings.
Okay.
Which is the 05 and up that everybody runs.
Right. And what's the benefit of that?
Is that you can have bolt-on portals for those unit bearings.
I like it.
I'm going to be using those unit bearings.
Yes. So you're going to go bolt-on portals on and get even wider?
I don't know. I haven't cut my WMS yet. So I could cut my WMS narrower
Man.
in order to plan on accepting the portals, but they're $5,000 per portal.
I know. They're nuts.
Yes,
they look so
are.
good though.
They do indeed. And so anyways, I tried getting a hold of 74 Welds and tracking them down while I was there, but they weren't there that I could find. So they are going to have a booth out at KOH though. So I'm planning on
They had one last year.
Talking to them. Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I totally missed on their booth last year at KOH.
I'm pretty sure they did. I don't think it was very far from you.
Oh, really? Nice.
Okay, so
let's see.
That was all the Toyota information from the Toyota booth.
That we can talk about here on the show. Yeah.
Got it.
On the podcast. There was some other things that happened there that I thought was pretty funny that I'll tell you about off air, but they're definitely, Toyota is heading, I think, in the right direction. They finally kind of figured some stuff out about the off-roading market, the off-road industry. And it sounds like they are all in with heading more down that road for the outdoor recreation lifestyle people that want to own vehicles.
Nice. I like to hear that. So, that's great.
Yeah.
Cool. So then agree. After Toyota, you had to walk through Toyota to get to the West Hall. So did you find the sky, what'd you call them? The sky bridges. Sky bridges.
Yeah, these sky bridges, I found them just fine and made it through the West Hall, back through the Central Hall and over to through the Central Hall, through the North Hall, into the West Hall. By the time I got into the West Hall, I was kind of just like looking around because I wanted to see what was going on. Like the West Hall is where all the off-road stuff is, where the overland stuff is. But they also had a bunch of painting, body vehicle paint.
Oh, okay.
Booths in there as well. And so I was kind of like, I don't know. It was really underwhelming. I didn't feel like the off-road market was really represented there this year. After especially hearing from like you, from being there, going to SEMA in the past, or from Jason and Chris about SEMA in the past, it definitely did not feel the same as what has been described to me about SEMA in the off-road industry.
When I went in 19, I don't remember what hall they were in, but they took the whole entire hall. So maybe they moved them out of the South Hall, which is smaller, and moved them into the West Hall, which is even bigger. And they couldn't fill the entire space. And so they had the automotive collision / paint and fixing in there to fill the rest of that space.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I didn't feel like there was as many people showing off fun axle builds or fun suspension builds. You know, both Curry and Dana were there, you know, showing off some new full float rear end axles that both of them had and some other things. But like, I don't know. It didn't really seem like there was a lot of off-road show vehicles there. It seemed like an overwhelming majority, even in the West Hall where the overlanding and off-roading sector was set up, it seemed like there was more bro trucks and like track cars kind of thing still. A lot of engine that were showing off more engine performance mods rather than suspension and axle mods. I was a little disappointed in it all, but I made my rounds and said hi to people that I was looking to say hi to. I found Andy over at his booth in the West Hall.
Oh, cool. Good.
I found the Cal 4 booth, so I got to say hi to all the Cal 4 people. Let's see, I went and hung out at the King booth for a while. I was meeting a retailer there. God, what else did I do? And then I ended up going back and forth down the West Hall 2 or 3 times. And I got to the point where I was like, there's nothing really here that's sparking my interest. There's nothing here that's like, oh, I want to look more into this kind of thing.
Did you see the Rockstar Garage Volkswagen Bug that was on full widths that Jarrett built?
Yeah, I did. I did see that, but it wasn't in the West Hall with the off-road stuff.
Oh, where was it?
I believe it was down in the Central Hall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. which was interesting because that booth did have, I think, in my opinion, if you want to look at off-road vehicles and fun, unique off-roading builds, the Rockstar Garage booth had the booth for that. And it was like 3 vehicles that were really designed for like big off-roading. But yeah, they weren't over in the off-road, the West Hall, which I thought was interesting. Yeah, I ended up going down. I saw 80% of the West Hall within a couple of hours. And I was just like, it's not anything too enticing. I didn't know what it was about it, but I wasn't feeling it. Apparently I missed the whole overlanding section at the end of the hall though, which was in the 20% that I didn't go to. Around that time, it was probably about noon or so, I started getting phone calls from the secretary saying she was about done with work for the day. And I was like, well, let's go. I just figured out that spouses can get passes underneath whoever their spouse credentials are, right?
Got it. Yeah, I was curious about that.
Because I saw a few people walking around with spouse credentials. And so I asked Andy about it. And he goes, oh, yeah, no, if you have a credential, then you can get your spouse in under your credential, essentially. And I was like, oh, cool. And so I was like, well, let's go figure this out. And so I went around asking a bunch of information booths about it. And I got directed down into general registration. Had to go find that in the West Hall. Talk to them. And they were like, oh, yeah, if you want to get a spouse credential for your media credential, you got to go to the media room. And I was like, well, where's the media room? And they're like, you don't know? You have a media credential? And I was like, well, yeah, I got mine at the Apex show, though.
Yeah, right.
And so I didn't know where the media room was. And so eventually they said that it was in the South Hall. I found that out after finding the secretary, though, because we were told that we had to go get her spouse credentials at the registration room, which was in the West Hall. So when she arrived to the convention center, she took the monorail and arrived, and she said that she arrived at the West Hall. And so I ended up walking up and down the West Hall and then got out to the lobby. And I was like, okay, well, I'm at the lobby. And she goes, well, I'm at the lobby. And I was like, I don't see you anywhere. Can you take a picture where you're at? And she took a picture, and I was like, that is not where I'm at all. And I was like, where the hell are you? We couldn't figure it out. She goes, I'm at the West Hall. And I was like, are you sure you're at the West Hall? She goes, yes. So I walked around the exterior of the West Hall, totally circumvented it once. And I was like, yeah, you're definitely not here at the West Hall. Where the hell are you? Finally got her to share her GPS coordinates with me. And she was down at the South Hall.
Oh. I was wondering if there was two lobbies on one per side for the West Hall, and she was at the whole opposite end.
No, she was at the South Hall, not the West Hall. So she was at the opposite end of the convention center from where I was.
Oh, man.
After I walked around everywhere trying to find her.
And you so entered at the North Hall for the start of the day?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Just trying to get an understanding. So now you are going to literally walk the whole length of the hall, or the whole length of the conference center.
Yes, I'm going to walk the entire length of the convention center to go find her at the South Hall. So I go and do that, found her at the South Hall, and I'm like, all right, now we got to go back to the West Hall to get your credential. So we walk all the way back up the convention center to the West Hall.
Did they let her through, or did you have to walk on the outside?
We had to, well, you can, we walked on the exterior, the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we got into the West Hall by saying that we needed to go into the registration area. And they said, okay, no problem. Just go right in there. They directed us into there. We get into the registration room and we're like, hey, we need to get a spouse credential. And they're like, okay, yeah, you're with media. You got to go to the media room in the South Hall.
Oh, man.
I was like, God damn it. So now that we realize media is down in the South Hall, I'm like, I don't want to walk all the way back down there. Turns out they have built a tunnel underneath the convention center that's a giant loop that Teslas drive.
Okay.
And so you can get between the vehicles or between the buildings by jumping in a Tesla and going underground through a tunnel, and then you pop back out at the next building.
Are they self-driving Teslas?
No, there's a person driving them.
Okay.
But
It's still weird.
everybody's it was weird, but it was actually really nice because we were able to get from the West Hall to the South Hall by being driven in a Tesla underneath the convention center. That was kind of nice. We got to take a break from all the walking. But the problem was that once we got to the South Hall, nobody told us where we needed to go in the South Hall. They said, okay, once you're going to pop up at the South Hall, and they said you need to go inside and find a room. I think it was S19 or 119, something like that. They said it's upstairs, so we have to go upstairs in the hall and find S119. And we're like, okay, cool. Sounds easy enough. So we get out and enter the South Hall from the north side of it. So the north end of the South Hall.
Okay.
We enter there, go right upstairs, and we get into the show hall because that's the only thing open. And we start walking through and we start seeing numbers on the sides. It says S1, S2, S3, S4. So we're like, okay, cool. So we're walking down the length of the hall to find number 19, and it ends at 18, about halfway through the hall. And we're like, And then it kind of widens out, like the rooms disappear. And so we're like, all right, let's just keep walking down to the end of the hall and see if we find 19. Maybe it's at the end of the hall. So we get all the way down at the end, and there's no 19 that we can find.
All right.
And so we're like, did we miss it? And so we walk back on, maybe we're like, okay, maybe it's on the other side of the hall. And so we go to the other side of the hall and walk back to the north end of the hall, and it wasn't there. And we're like, did we miss it? And so we walk back down to 18, and then it just disappears. We're like, where the fuck is 19 at? We couldn't find 19. So finally we walked back to the end of the hall where we came in at and found a security guard. And we're like, hey, where's the media room? And he goes, I don't know. I'm just security. I just check credentials and let people in or out. And I was like, do you know how I can figure this out? Like, how do I find the media room? And he goes, hold on, just wait here. And so he was able to find his supervisor who knew where the media room was. And they said that it was, you had to go in the entrance at the south end of the building and then go upstairs. And it's a side hallway off of the sky bridge at the south end of the building. And we're at the north end of the building now. And we're like, we were just down at the south end of the building. We came back up here to try and find this room. And we're like, all right, whatever. We'll just go down there. And he goes, well, where are you going? Because we're about to walk back into the hall to go in. And we're like, well, we're going to go down to the other end of the hall so we can go find the media room. And he goes, she doesn't have a credential. You can't go in there. And we're like,
yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get her a credential.
Exactly.
I have to go to media.
Exactly.
We have to go to media to get her a credential.
Yeah. So they made us exit the hall and walk around the exterior of the South Hall in order to go down and get into the South End entrance to go get her credentials.
Oh, man. How many steps did you get that day?
I don't know. I had my step counter. It wasn't on, but she clocked 22,000.
Wow.
And like, I was there 4 hours before she was. So
sounds like our days at Disneyland.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, we finally got her media credential, and the media room is freaking phenomenal. I wish I'd went there first, like you said, because once we got her credentials, I was like, hey, I got my credential over at the Apex show. Do you guys have anything for media specifically for here at the SEMA show? And they're like, oh yeah, we have, here's this, here's a schedule of events, here's a map, here's all the points of interest, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, I should have came here first.
Yeah, they even tell you, if I recall, they told me things like, this is an event we'd really like media to attend. And if you want to go to these lectures, it'd be really nice to share, these items from the lecture. They were trying to get you, they were really enticing you to get media coverage at the event.
Yeah, 100%. And so, yeah, after that, I was just like, man, all right, big mental check mark for next year is come straight to the media room when I get here.
Yeah, and that's really good to know that we can get our spouses in underneath our credentials.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool too. I wasn't sure how that was going to work. I just walked up and said, yeah, we need a spouse credential. And they're like, okay, no problem. Let me see yours. And they connected her under my credential somehow. And it was no problem. We both got in just fine. So
awesome. So was that the end of the day since you did so much walking around and trying to find, her and get the media pass? Or did you guys do something else at the event?
For the most part, I think from there we were pretty tired of walking around, but I wanted to show her the Sequoia.
Got it. Okay.
So that we can try and talk her out of the Bronco and into a Sequoia.
I like the idea. Good.
Yep. And so we went over to the Toyota booth and checked out some of the vehicles there. And then after that, we pretty much called it and went back to the hotel room. It was like 4:30 by that time.
So how did the Sequoia showing go?
She thinks it's a really big vehicle, but I think that she was looking at mainly the ones that were lifted up on 37s. And she's worried about driving a big vehicle in downtown Sacramento if she has to go down there. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I hate driving in downtown Sacramento no matter what vehicle I'm in. But I don't think she realizes how big a four-door Bronco on 37s will be compared to a Sequoia on 37s. I think it's going to be about the same size.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the body of a Sequoia is probably larger than the body of a Bronco.
Yeah, probably, especially with that third row seating in there. So, but yeah, we called it an afternoon there and went back to the hotel and got checked into the hotel, and then kind of took a nap before going out to dinner because we had some interesting problems going on at Morflate in the back end of stuff. I was up at 1 a.m. that day.
Oh,
and so I was up at 1 a.m.
Yeah, getting everything ready for you to leave. Yeah.
And then ran around Las Vegas all day long. So like I was just dead tired.
Sure.
By 4. So went back to the hotel, took a quick nap. We had dinner reservations in the Venetian for 6:30, whatever it was. We went to a Mexican food restaurant that was right on the water in the Venetian where they have the boat gondola rides.
Okay.
So
is that where
that was really cool?
Were you in the tunnel with the blue skies?
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah. You're underground.
I was really
with blue
impressed
sky.
with that. It was cool. Yeah. The blue sky tunnel in Little Italy,
right
inside the Venetian. Yeah. I thought that was really cool. That was interesting to kind of be in there and just looking around at the engineering and architecture that went into kind of creating that tunnel and all the shops and the food spaces around it. I thought it was pretty interesting. Getting to sit down and do all the people watching there was a lot of fun too.
There's always good people watching in Vegas.
Dude, yeah, there is. Oh my God.
Especially at 4 a.m.
Yeah, we haven't done that one yet. Yeah, after dinner, we just went back to the hotel because we were just tired of the day of walking around the convention center like 3 times. And then went back to the hotel, went to bed, and then got up the next day. And she stayed in the hotel room, did some work, and I went off to the show to meet some people and chat some more. So Friday was more of my kind of fun day. I got most of my meetings out of the way on Thursday. The Gear Wrench booth was really cool as well. So I thought was what was really interesting. What they were doing was they were building a car in their booth all week long.
Wow. Okay. I heard some stuff about that. What kind of car was it?
It was a Mustang. I think a 2022 Mustang. And there's a company called RTR. And they are actually, fun fact, they are doing the Funhaver Broncos.
Oh.
It's not the Broncos that Von Gittin and Lauren has that they race with, but what they've done is they've taken the design of the 4600 Broncos, the stock class, the 4600 Broncos, and applied it and kind of made a consumer product based on the 4600 Broncos that Von Gittin and Lauren Healy have.
I like it. Smart.
I do too. I thought it was really cool. And RTR is the company that they take possession of the Bronco and modify it for this fun haver formula for these fun haver Broncos. So if you have a Bronco on order, you can contact RTR and say, hey, I'm going to have my Bronco shipped to you, and you guys can get me the fun haver setup. And then they go through and do all the fun havers. So they have a bunch of vehicles that they kind of have formulas for. And there was a Mustang that they had there in the booth that somebody had purchased and given Gear Wrench and RTR to do this build on. And so RTR was doing the build on this guy's Mustang there in the Gear Wrench booth over the course of a week with all the tools there in the Gear Wrench booth.
I like it. That's a cool idea. Proving that you have all the tools that can build a car, and this company gets to show off their skill and of building radical vehicles.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I thought it was a genius idea. I thought it played off really well. And so that was neat to kind of see and get down and talk to the RTR guys and the Gear Wrench marketing people for a little bit on Thursday as well. And so Friday when I came in, I was trying to get in at 10:30 so that I could watch them unveil this Mustang to the owner of the car who was there. And I didn't get in time.
Bummer.
So yeah, it was a bummer. It was a good time Friday. Pretty much like I wasn't really enthralled too much with the West Hall, which is where all the off-road stuff was. And so I spent almost my entire day on Friday in the South Hall where all the gadgets were. So different tools, different tool companies, different just kind of gadgety tool stuff. And I was like, I have some ideas in my head that I want to bring to fruition, product ideas for Morphlate. But there's a couple of very specific parts I want to use, and I don't know where to source those parts from.
Right. Okay.
And so my goal on Friday was to go around the South Hall and see if any of these gadgety tool items, parts, anything like that, I could find there at the SEMA show. And I did.
Nice. Well, then that's a business success right there.
100%. So we're going to have some cool things coming out from Morphlate here, I think, next year as I kind of follow up with these connections I made on Friday in the South Hall. Guess who was there the whole time as well that I was in Vegas?
Well, I know that our most famous stripper was around.
He was indeed. And so he was there since like Monday, I think. And so he goes, I've already seen the entire show. He goes, what are you doing Friday? And I was like, I have a very set list of things I'm trying to find. I'm going to try and find them on Friday. And he goes, cool, I'll come be your tour guide. And I was like, okay, cool.
Perfect.
And so Reed and I hung out all day Friday, walking up and down the South Hall. And he found some things for powder coating that was very interesting to him, and plating and whatnot. And I found a couple of key components that I was looking for. I also found Lock Inflate.
I don't know what that is.
They are an air chuck that they do a really good job with air chucks. They make an air chuck that has similar qualities to the air chuck that we just released with Morphlate, but it's a lever actuated rather than a locking collar actuated.
Got it. Okay.
And so they had apparently their customer service guy had called me a few weeks ago and was like, I don't understand. We've been selling 4 of our air chucks at one time for a while now, and we couldn't figure out why. And somebody just told us why, because they need 4 of them for their Morphlates.
So people are buying a Morphlate and then they are going to Lock Inflate and buying Lock Inflate chucks.
Yep, and putting the Lock Inflate chucks on their Morphlates. And so I talked with them and set up an account with them there at the SEMA show. So we're going to have Lock Inflate air chucks available on the Morphlate website here probably late November.
Nice.
For people to order if they want to get those through us.
Okay. So now they have 3 options of kind of air chucks.
I think we're going to be able to narrow it down to two. Our option and the lock inflate chuck. So it'll depend on whether or not you want a lever actuated or a locking collar actuated.
Okay. Very nice.
The lock inflate ones are quite expensive. So be prepared to pay a premium if you want them, but they are really nice. So anyway, so I got to talk with them. And then I think the highlight of the show for me, which is from the podcast side of things, which is really interesting to kind of say this out loud, was the new off-road jack that Harbor Freight released.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of videos and pictures of this. It's very similar to another high-end jack that's out in the market, and Harbor Freight is probably making something identical or very, very similar for probably half the price.
Yep, pretty much.
I haven't seen anybody actually mention a price. Did they tell you a price?
They did. It's $299 retail.
Wow. What?
Yeah.
So it's, let's just let the cat out of the bag if nobody actually saw this. Harbor Freight is making a Pro Eagle version of a jack. It's on big wheels. Does it have an extension too?
It does. Yep. It has a saddle that comes off of it. The extendable saddle, the extension saddle. I've been waiting for somebody else to come in this space other than Pro Eagle. They make a phenomenal jack. If you need to use a jack off-road, you want to use a Pro Eagle or an off-road, that style of jack, right?
Oh, absolutely. Those big wheels help rolling over the dirt and gravel or anything that's outside. It makes your work so much easier than having to drag the jack through the dirt.
100%. However, I hate the Pro Eagle jack if you want to use it inside of a shop on a concrete surface.
100%. I have it. You've used it. I think I was at SEMA in 2019, and I told them that. I said, I love your jack. It absolutely sucks to use it in a shop, which it's not really designed for. It's not designed to be used in a shop.
No, it's not.
But those big wheels don't turn. They get held up. I literally turn the jack around, stand on the front to turn the thing, because otherwise you got to push the handle all the way to the ground to lift the front end off so you can get it to turn, because it just doesn't turn. And I've persuaded people not to get my jack and to get the lower end version that has a big roller in the front, and it allows you to move the jack around, or it has two metal wheels at the front, one or the other. And it allows you to turn things around a lot easier, but you still get that extension or saddle or lift item that's up in the front. So because of that, because of my experience, I've actually turned people away from it, which is not what you want to see in a product.
Exactly. Yeah, just like you said, if you're looking for an off-road jack, Pro Eagle makes a fantastic jack. If you're looking for a shop jack, you don't want to use a Pro Eagle.
No.
And so I'm like, why can't we use a jack for both uses? Like, why hasn't this been a solvable problem yet? And Harbor Freight, with their new Badland off-road jack, they solved, in my opinion, two major problems with the Pro Eagle. One was that maneuverability issue on concrete, and two was the way that extension sits on the jack. It has these two locking plates, and you slip, I don't know, one of the plates underneath the other one. You twist it to lock it into place, right? I don't know if you can describe that better.
No, it's a tongue and groove situation for the most part. You know, it's got a it just has a groove, and then when you slide the top extension plate down into the void, you turn it, and the plate slides underneath that groove and holds it in place.
Yeah. So my problem with that is the groove that sits there on the saddle of the jack where you're lifting everything from. If you bend that groove at all, you can't lock the extension onto the Pro Eagle anymore.
Correct. Yeah. Or you have to sand down the tongue, which I've had to do so that I could get that extension in.
Exactly. And so I'm like, that's a major design flaw. If you're creating a crush point at a spot where you're intentionally picking up very heavy objects to make your product unusable anymore, that's a big problem. And
just don't ever take that part off. You always got to leave it on.
Leave the extension on. Yeah. So Harbor Freight fixed that. They created the saddle spot there. It has a normal saddle like your typical jack you would see. And then there's a flange surface around the exterior that's at the same height as the top of the saddle. And so that flange surface has 2 bolt holes in it. So you take the extension that has a flat plate on the bottom of it, and you put it and it sits on the flange surface rather than in the saddle. And you bolt the extension onto that flange surface that's around the saddle.
So you have to bolt this into place, and that's what the bolts hold it in its location instead of a quick twist mechanism.
Exactly. And the flange surface around the saddle is threaded, so you don't have to sit there with a nut and a bolt and trying to line them up or anything. You just put the extension in place, line up the holes, and then put your bolt in and just thread it down into the flange surface.
That's pretty clever. Don't lift anything dirty because then it'll gunk up those threads.
Yeah. Don't lift anything with JB Weld fresh on it. So, I thought that was really clever. I was like, they fixed the interlocking problem of Pro Eagle 1, and then the maneuverability I thought was really clever. They created a lock in the arm of the jack, the handle, the lever of the jack.
What do you mean?
So you pull the lever to about 45 degrees and you can lock it there at 45 degrees. So now the handle is locked at 45 degrees and you can push down on the handle, which lifts up the front end of the jack, and you can maneuver it around wherever you want effortlessly.
I like that. Yeah, that's a really good idea. But what happens when you are lifting the vehicle and you're actually, pushing the arm of the jack all the way down to the ground? Do you have to unlock it every single time to go past 45?
No. There's a locking actuator lever on the side of the jack. So you either have that as actuated or unactuated. And so if you want it to lock in 45, you have that lever actuated. Otherwise, if you're lifting up a vehicle, you just have the lever unactuated, and then the lifting handle of the jack operates like normal.
Both good upgrades. Absolutely. That's really good.
Yep. And the other thing, and I don't know what the Pro Eagle does for this, but the extension, do you have a way to store the extension on the jack?
Yes.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, they give you a little cradle thing that you can screw down up by the lever, the arm. But I never put it on because there's a few times that I was working on lowered vehicles or lower, like not trucks, lower vehicles. And I needed to push the jack pretty much all the way underneath the vehicle, and the cradle would be in the way.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that is different how Harbor Freight did it then. The extension comes off and you can collapse it down, and it stores recessed in the body of the jack.
That's nice. I like that too.
Yeah. So there's a little, like a C-clamp in there, like one of those ones that you put a lever over and then latch it down.
What they have
down inside the frame of the jack right there, and you store the extension so it doesn't come up or stick up outside of the body of the jack.
That's cool. Yeah, I was thinking about tapping a hole on the backside of my jack where the big wheels are, and so you collapse the extension completely, and then you can snap it in and lock it in with that C on the backside of the jack, which you don't need to. You can have all the space in the world because you're putting the jack underneath the vehicle, and that's not going to get in the way. So it was really a question if it can collapse enough to fit inside between the tires.
Yep. And so, it does. So anyways, I got to talk with an engineer from Harbor Freight about that whole jack, and he must have thought I was one of the weirdest people for getting as excited as I was over that.
No, by all the internet photos and videos I saw, I think he thought you're pretty normal.
Okay, good. What was really neat though was I was talking with him and I was like, are you guys looking at making mounts for these now? Because there's a ton of the off-road market, a ton of race teams in Ultra 4 off-road racing who will take the Pro Eagles and mount them in their vehicles. Baja, anything. And he goes, oh yeah, since we essentially used the same frame as the Pro Eagle and made a bunch of other utilitarian changes to the jack, he said our jack will fit in the Pro Eagle mounts.
Awesome. That's cool.
But they're also going to be making their own mounts for them. And the other thing is that this jack, the Harbor Freight one, has a big lifting handle on it. So you can lift it from the middle of the jack if you need to like put it up into a truck or something.
Okay.
Which is another nice feature of it.
Thinking ahead.
Yeah. And so he said that their biggest complaint is that it wasn't smaller. A 3-ton jack is okay. And I was like, yeah, I get it. But like, if we're trying to put these jacks into lighter weight recreational rock crawlers or something, having this big ass 3-ton jack, it may not be super feasible for people like us and that are trying to do rock crawling recreational. What are you guys doing? Are you guys have any plans for a lighter weight jack or anything? Like, you think about a 1.5 ton in the same style? And he said that they do have plans for a 2-ton version, which will weigh something like 20 to 30% less than the 3-ton version.
I thought you were going to say their attorneys won't let them answer that.
No, I got a lot of information out of the Harbor Freight guys. But what was really neat that I didn't know is that everything that Harbor Freight is producing, they're trying to make sure that they meet ANSI specs.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so especially on all their jacks, he said that they have to meet ANSI specifications on all their jacks in order to bring a jack to market.
For those that don't know what ANSI specs are, do you want to explain that real quick?
I'm not entirely sure what the formal definition of them is, but it's essentially a set of specifications, kind of like military spec and mil spec kind of stuff, where it has to meet a certain quality characteristics in order to be deemed safe to use by the auto and SAE industry.
That's for the most part what I knew it as. It's a level that they are trying to accomplish that is in the automotive industry that, sets it apart from just something being made, at random.
Exactly. So he said that they couldn't meet ANSI qualifications, ANSI spec on a 1.5 ton. That's why they're doing a 2-ton version of it in the future. But he also said that Pro Eagle is not ANSI spec at all.
Oh, wow.
Which I didn't know, but I had never really thought of either. So
that's interesting. So in a way, the safety factor is a little better on a Harbor Freight.
I mean, it could not be. Pro Eagle could have just said, fuck it, we're not going to talk to ANSI. We don't feel like we need an ANSI spec because we feel like we're over spec'd or something. They didn't want to spend the money on getting ANSI specification certified. I don't know what the reason is why Pro Eagle is not ANSI spec'd, but supposedly they are not ANSI spec'd for whatever reason. I don't think that Pro Eagle necessarily makes a bad off-road jack because of that. I think they still make one hell of a killer off-road jack, but I just thought that was interesting learning that they never went and got the ANSI spec certification for it. So
yeah, that is a bit bizarre. I bet you they're going to have it within a few months now.
We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. Those were kind of the highlights for me of the show. I walked around outside a little bit. The timing never worked out that I would ever got to see any of the drift shows. I thought those would have been fun to watch. I never got out there while the show was going on. Yeah, it was, I had fun in the South Hall. I love looking at gadgets and seeing tool gadgets and getting ideas for things that when you see them out on the market, you're like, oh my God, this part exists. This design exists. We can do this with that.
Correct. Yeah.
And so that was a lot of fun for me. The show was exhausting. Walking around that much. I was only there for 2 days, but I couldn't walk by the end of the second day. we sat down for dinner on Friday night, and I got up from dinner and I was like, I literally can't walk. Like I was hobbling out of there.
Well, that's the benefit if you go for 4+ days is you don't have to kill yourself every single day, all day long.
Yeah.
You can go, I'm only going to go for a few hours today. I want to walk this hall, and then I'm going to go lounge by a pool and have a margarita.
Yeah, that would have been nice to do.
Cool. So what did the the secretary think of the event?
She wasn't too thrilled by it. I don't know. She thought it was interesting to just kind of see and get an idea of how big the automotive industry was. I thought it was kind of cute because she started pointing out cars and was like, ooh, that's an F-150, or ooh, that's a Gladiator, or ooh, that's a Tacoma, or ooh, that's a whatever. And I just thought it was funny that she was starting to point out cars, and she was getting a lot of them correct, which I thought was fun.
That's good.
And then there was a bunch of cars where like she would look at and she would goes, why would anybody do that to a vehicle?
There's a lot of that at SEMA.
And I kind of just looked and I was like, because you can. That's what SEMA is all about.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So what did you guys do on Saturday, on your tourist day?
Yeah, on our tourist day, we slept in, went out to breakfast, and then checked out of the hotel, checked our bag in with the hotel, and then went walking around, and we went and got to walk through the Bellagio and see more of the Bellagio. We went and checked out that atrium and the chocolate fountain, which is a lot of fun to kind of check out and look at. Friday night, we got to watch the water fountain show at the Bellagio, which was a lot of fun. And you just start thinking about all the engineering that goes into every single one of those nozzles that are all 360-degree motorized ability, sync to sound and music or sound and lights. It was pretty impressive watching that and just thinking about all the engineering behind that. Friday night, we went to dinner at I forget where it was. I want to say it was in the Cosmopolitan, and it was at the Fountain of Gods. I forget what the fountain is called, but it's this fountain in the middle of a giant walkway area, and it's this massive fountain that depicts all the Roman gods.
Cool. I don't know if I've seen that.
It's pretty freaking impressive. If you haven't gotten to see it, I really wish I knew more about where we were. But we had dinner there, and then after that, I had a lot of fun, and she had a lot of fun. We both she really likes bars, breweries, tap rooms, wineries, stuff like that. And I like drinking, and I like people watching. So I also really like going out to bars and breweries and wineries and stuff like that. And so we found out that there are speakeasies all over Las Vegas.
Okay. So like little hidden gems of bars.
Yep. There's a few different like hidden things in Vegas. So there's a couple of hidden pizza restaurants. So we found one of them. And there's 4 hidden bars inside the Cosmopolitan.
Oh, that's neat. Okay.
Yeah. And so one of them is called Ghost Donkey.
Okay. Oh, I saw that photo.
Yes. Yep. And so Ghost Donkey, I actually ran into Martin from Milestar Tires, in Ghost Donkey. Cool. It was pretty funny. So there's Ghost Donkey. There's a ski lodge, hidden bar in the Cosmo. There is a, what is it? What did they call it? I want to say they called it the Prohibition bar. And it's themed after Prohibition era restaurants.
I might have been to that one.
And so that one's really cool. It's a hidden bar, and it's not super hidden. It's a big ass door in the back of one of the, oh my God, what is it called? A shop. One of the shops there. And the shop has one counter in it, and they have things on display like fancy old style guitars. Like it looks like an old music shop. And on one end of the shop is just this big ass door. And you just walk in and you go in through the door, and the shopkeeper doesn't say anything to you, and you just walk right in, and there's a whole restaurant and bar back behind the shop there.
I haven't been to that.
Yeah. So there's those, and then there's the barber shop. There's a little tiny barber shop in the Cosmopolitan where you can actually get your hair cut at. But in the back of the barber shop behind it, there's a door in the back of the barbershop, and there's literally like 4 stalls in this barbershop. But if you just walk right through and go through the janitorial closet, quote unquote, you end up in this bar back behind the barbershop.
That's awesome.
And so we didn't go into that one. We hit up the Ghost Donkey first because that was supposedly the hardest one to find. And so we found that one. And then we found the ski lodge pretty easily. And then we found the Prohibition one pretty easily. And then by the time we were done with those 3, our alcohol level for more alcohol was pretty full. And so we didn't go into the barbershop one. We walked by it a few times. And each time we walked by it, we're like, there's a bar back there that no one knows about.
Cool.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun Friday night. And then Saturday, like I said, we hung out, played, took things easy Saturday morning. And then we went and checked out the 100 year anniversary of King Tut's tomb.
Oh, was that in Vegas? That's cool.
Yeah, it was. The display was out in Vegas. So it was at the Luxor.
That makes sense.
Right.
For those that don't know what the Luxor looks like, it's a giant pyramid.
It is a massive pyramid with a giant sphinx outside and a big ass obelisk too. So we went over to the Luxor and checked out the King Tut's 100 year anniversary of opening and finding King Tut's tomb. And so that was really neat, kind of walking through all that and kind of learning about how the tomb was discovered and everything else that they found and learned about Egyptian culture through everything they found in King Tut's tomb. Yeah,
I saw somewhere on Facebook or something that it was the 100 year anniversary of that. And I was like, man, that's crazy to think that it was 100 years ago that they were excavating that tomb out,
Right.
Not that we're 100 years old, but it just didn't seem like it was that long ago, or it didn't, I just had no idea the concept of when it was discovered.
Yeah. And it was fun because it opened up on November 4th, which was the 100 year anniversary. November 4th, 22?
Makes sense.
I guess it would have been.
That's a good job.
And so we were there on November 5th of it. So we were at 100 years and one day.
Cool.
From the finding of the tomb. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, from there, we got back to the airport and our plane was scheduled to leave around, I think, 5. So we wanted to get there about 3 because they were shutting down the Las Vegas Strip, Las Vegas Boulevard, for F1 to Formula One to come in and run some F1 cars up and down the strip.
Interesting. Okay.
So we were like, we want to make sure that we get kind of an early start here to get to the airport. So that in case we get stuck in traffic through all the detours of the strip being shut down, we can get there. So we took off to the airport a little earlier than we had anticipated. But it was a fun day.
Cool. So, well, it sounds like it was a good trip all in all. Was it worth being sick for a few days?
I think so. I think it was.
I think it was as well from what it sounds like. And I'm excited to actually catch up with you in person and hear some of the backstories of things that could work for the podcast.
Yeah. Yep. There's a few things to follow up on with you off air. So for sure, it was a good time. I definitely realized I can only take Vegas in short amounts, small amounts.
Yeah.
So it's fun doing the people watching, but there's also a ton of people there. And I'm like, I like my big wide open spaces. I don't do well in crowds, and I'd rather be up in the mountains in the middle of granite and redwoods. And
yes, understood.
Small doses.
I've told you about my best trip ever to Vegas, haven't I?
Was that the bachelor party where you had the skeleton outfit?
That was that bachelor party. Yeah. It was a bachelor party, but that bachelor party was to Austin, Texas, when I had the skeleton.
Oh, okay.
So we did a bachelor party where we went to Vegas and we didn't even rent a hotel room. We all just wore our nice clothes. We flew in at like 3:00 and hung out at a casino for a while, went out to dinner, went out drinking, went out to the clubs, and then went straight to the airport. And our flight was at like 5 a.m. in the morning and we flew home. Yeah, just drunk on the airplane. I was surprised they let us on.
Oh, man.
But that was the best trip ever because then you get home and you're home and then you don't, you're asleep for the next day and you don't have to be stuck in Vegas hungover.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I've found that either one day in Vegas or 3 days in Vegas is the best, because 2 days you could go crazy on the first day, and then the second day you're hungover, you don't want to do anything, and then the third day then you're good and you can go out again. So 2 days in Vegas is pointless.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Yeah, I will give it to Vegas on the food though. Everything we had was exquisite.
Yes.
All the food was
Vegas
amazing.
It's top notch on a few of those things for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I think our goal is to go back to the Prohibition bar for dinner next time, because we didn't realize that they had a full menu that they served there. And so when we got there, we're like, oh, they have menu and stuff. So we ended up getting some donuts that were amazing. But yeah, they have a full menu there too. So we're like, all right, we're going to come here for dinner next time.
That's awesome.
Well, cool, man. That was my trip. Got some fun things. Got to learn some cool stuff. Hopefully got some fun content for you guys here on the podcast, talking about some of the things Toyota is going to be doing. Hopefully we can get somebody here from Toyota on the podcast in the near future to talk about what they're coming up with in the future here. And some new fun things coming out from Gear Wrench, which we'll get to talk about, I think, here in January. We might get to start teasing about some of them.
Cool.
And all the other stuff that we got involved with there. So
sweet.
Yeah, man. That's all I got. That was the list of everything we did up over in Vegas.
Sounds like it was a good trip.
It was indeed. So if anybody had any questions about the trip or wanted to hear any more details about anything we have talked about today, let me know. You can phone in at 916-345-4744. Leave us a voicemail so we can play it on the podcast and then kind of respond to it. It's always fun to do that. If you guys want to get a hold of us on Instagram, you definitely can. I'm over at 4x4 Toyota Tyler. Jimmy's over at Snail Trail 4x4. He's watching over that one. And then, of course, there's always emails as well. So with that, Jimmy Jet, buddy old pal, do you have any final words for everybody?
My great-grandparents had a Prohibition bar in the basement of their house, and they served wine that they made.
That's pretty cool. And with that, my friends, keep crawling.
I got one for you.
Hey, everybody. Jimmy has a joke.
What do you call a line of men waiting to get haircuts?
I'm going to say something about a butch.
It's a barbecue.
Oh, okay. Har har.
Har har. Goes well with your hidden speakeasy.
My speakeasies.